My family and I just went through a legitimate natural disaster, and these are the 7 things that I'm going to do to prepare differently for the next one. We lost all electricity in our house for 8.5 days. Many communities located just north of us were without water for weeks. FEMA had to come and run our hospitals, and the National Guard were evacuating citizens just to the north of us. But in my family's little corner of the disaster, we were doing okay until day 5, when my basically brand new gas portable generator that I've only used once just to make sure it works for a situation like this died on me. It had plenty of gas. I had just changed the oil. I put it in a new spark plug just to see. I cleaned the carburetor. Nothing. It was dead. Would not start. Kaput. It turns out it died because of a mistake I made 2 years ago in preparing for this very moment. And this video is all about those mistakes. The majority of my mistakes deal with the generator, so let's start with that. For starters, when I bought the generator, I got it going and tried to test that it could run everything that I needed it to. Years ago, I actually made a video on this channel showing that it was running multiple refrigerators, all the appliances that I thought I was going to need. I thought I was set. But one of the mistakes I made initially was not actually calculating how long my gas supply was going to last. And I should have known, it's written on the box how long at 50% capacity it's going to last, but you don't really know how much wattage you're going to use until you need to. So one of the tricks is to not just have a generator in times of crisis, but to ensure that you know when you're going to need it the most, how long it's going to last running the appliances that you think you're going to need in a state of emergency. One of the best pieces of advice I hope you take away from this video is take your generator and do a practice run. Pretend that you don't have electricity anywhere in your house, hook it up and run it for 24 hours straight. Because you're never really going to know how long your generator is going to last until you put it through the paces. Are you running 1 refrigerator, 2 refrigerators, a refrigerator, freezer, toaster, microwave? Every time you plug something in, it's just sucking that much gas that much faster. Which brings me to my next biggest mistake, and this was the big one. It came down to the gas. I had enough gas, I used the right type of gas, I stored it inappropriately. I had the right jugs. The reality is beneath the studio where I make all these videos is the shop, and I just didn't want to smell like gas up here. I was being lazy. I stored my gas cans outside. I get it. I should have known better. You don't need to put in the comments below how stupid I am. I've learned my lesson. I got it. But ultimately, if you don't know, after years of storing my gas outside, water, condensation, basically moisture got inside the gas, and after refilling the generator several times, basically there was so much water in there, it just wouldn't run. So as I said, know how long your generator is going to do it. Do a dry run for 24 hours. And when you store gas, make sure you have enough and store it inside. The third thing that I learned has to do with the oil. I know with small engines you're going to have to put oil in more frequently, and this generator was new, so I wasn't really concerned about it. It actually wasn't until it died and I started thinking to myself, was it already due for an oil change? When I started troubleshooting, I realized they recommend you change the oil every 100 hours. Think about it, 100 hours, that's about 4 days. We were without power for 8 days, and if it had gone even longer, that's 3 oil changes I would have had to have performed. Fortunately, when I was troubleshooting, I had just enough oil in my shop to do it, but if it hadn't have died and I continued to run it, I would have been out of oil and it would have burned up anyway. So make sure you have enough gas, make sure you have enough oil, because if you are truly in a natural disaster, your electricity is going to be out for more than 100 hours and you're going to need to do oil changes. Which brings me to a random aside. The second generator that I got, I was really happy with. I'm happy with the first one. This Generac generator actually has a breaker included in it, and in addition, it has a digital readout of how many hours the generator's been running, which is crucial because you're not going to sit here and do the math at home. Once it gets to 100, you know you have to change the oil. So if you're in the market for a generator, I am happy with the second one that I got, and I'll leave a link to Amazon in the description below. So check it out if you're in the market. The fourth mistake I made was having too much confidence in my drop cord collection. I knew I had plenty of drop cords. The problem was the quality of them. I didn't really have a lot of heavy-duty, higher gauge drop cords. And ultimately I realized some of my drop cords weren't even made to be used outdoors. Obviously, because of carbon monoxide accumulation, your generator has to be at least 20 feet from your house. 20 feet according to the instructions. The point is, if you don't have higher gauge drop cords, certainly if you have ones that aren't meant to be outdoors, you're going to be in a little bit of a pickle. I also realized at that time that my coffee maker was a 3-pronged cord and some of my drop cords were 2-pronged. I get it, in a natural disaster, how important is coffee? It's very important, okay? Back off. The point is, your generator is going to be far from your house. You're going to need plenty of drop cords. Be sure you have enough industrial or higher gauge drop cords that can actually handle the load that you're going to do. The fifth mistake I made was, while we had plenty of flashlights and candles, we didn't have a lantern. Flashlights are good for going around the house when it's dark and you're looking for something, but if you're just sitting around a living room with your friends and family, a lantern is perfect. So now that things have normalized, one of the first things that I purchased was this cobalt lantern. This one is nice because you can charge it 3 different ways. You can plug it in through a USB, it's got rechargeable batteries, and it's solar. Obviously key for what we just went through. Use it throughout the night or charge it up throughout the day. Candles are nice, but when you've got kids and animals, they're an unnecessary risk for fire. For your disaster preparedness, get yourself a lantern and thank me later. The next thing I want to talk about is this the 6th or 7th thing? It doesn't matter. The next thing I want to talk about is how you're going to cook. Clearly we used our generator to have our toaster oven and microwave going, but the time between the first generator dying and the second generator being purchased, we had to cook. And I always thought that living in the middle of the woods, firewood would not be a problem. But again, poor planning, a hurricane went through and the ground was soaked. I couldn't get any of the fire to keep aflame. It was too humid for the charcoal. Ultimately, my wife had a brilliant idea to use the lint from our dryer. It's probably a little embarrassing how much lint we had in our dryer, but don't try and act like you don't have a butt ton of it too. We were able to light that on fire, and using that as a starter, it was just enough to dry up some of our other logs and create a decent going fire. The point is, your wood is probably going to be wet. It might be too humid for charcoal. Have some starter logs ready. And it never hurts to have all the ingredients for s'mores on standby. So if you found this video helpful and informative, which I hope you did, click subscribe, and I'll see you next time.